Checking under the hood, the true cost of doing business. People just don't pay attention until something goes wrong, Sam said, bobbing his head between our conversation and what was taking place under the car's hood. Thankfully, it wasn't my car he was referring to, and I stepped around to the front of the car to prevent Sam from getting whiplash. He and I had been working together for a while. He had implemented several of our strategies and was seeing positive, incremental changes. "See this? It's a serpentine belt," he pointed, then shook his head in dismay. "The belt that runs the car and all of its moving parts?" I replied. "Exactly," Sam exclaimed. "It's a more efficient system than you see on older cars. It can take more stress, usually takes up less space, and gives you ample warning before it breaks." Ample warning. And when it breaks, you've got real problems. But people just don't pay attention. But maybe they don't know the warning signs, I thought to myself, remembering the shape of Sam's business when he and I had connected. That image stayed in my mind for several days. Sam's disapproving look at the situation and what he had to say about it. I thought about how it perfectly illustrated the cost of doing business. The true cost of doing business. Too often, shop owners stay in catch-up mode. That is, they're entrenched in the daily operations with barely enough time to breathe. The idea of stopping long enough to check under the hood, if you will, could be costly because time is money. They don't calculate how much more expensive it is to not know the true cost of doing business. This chapter will be devoted to doing just that, and through that, you will also learn how to calculate your true value to your local marketplace to help you increase your profit. Find hidden money in your current transactions and make sure you make more money per car. Structure your business to never leave money on the table again. Increase customer retention so that you'll keep customers coming back and spending more. And implement proven strategies to increase gross profit for labor, sublet, parts, tires, towing, and miscellaneous. Stacking up cash. It's interesting that Sam would inadvertently give me a great illustration for this chapter. When he and I first got together, he'd left $175,000 on the table in a 12-month period by not charging the correct margins. Ouch! All the warning signs were there. Sam just hadn't paid attention. He knew he needed to get a handle on things, but finding the time to figure it all out just seemed wasteful. He was still making payroll and paying his bills, so he figured it would work itself out, even as he squeaked by. Sam did not know his true cost for doing business. By the time he contacted me, things were looking grim. "Gary, my money goes out faster than it comes in," he explained. "I take in $100,000, I spend $110,000. I take this in, I take that in, but my checkbook is not growing. What is going on with my business?" I had Sam draw what I call the stacking up cash hourglass diagram. Draw an hourglass and write the word money at the top. That's money coming through your business, and out the bottom it drains out. 7 items will determine how much drains from the top. They are grouped expenses: personnel, operational, building, note payments, budgeted net profit, working capital, and reserve funds required. It's important for shop owners like Sam to construct budgets as a way to determine how they're doing, what needs fixing, how to fix it. It's equally important to understand why a budget shouldn't be viewed as constrictive. Rather, it's the great barometer by which to make business decisions. These 7 items are mandatory in the budgeting for profit process and help gauge your true business cost. Let's take a moment to break them down, piece by piece, to identify how quickly they are slipping through your business hourglass. It's no secret that part of your cost of doing business is wrapped up in personnel. I well remember Sam smiled and said, "I've got a handle on this, Gary. My personnel expenses include the service advisor's pay, the uniform costs that we have, the matching taxes, the general manager's pay, our in-house accounting folks." "What about your technicians? Their gross pay?" I asked. "That's the cost of goods," Sam replied. Sam was correct. We view technicians' gross pay unloaded as the only factor in calculating labor cost of goods. The truth is, all other benefits, health insurance, uniforms, matching taxes should be considered personnel group expenses. When you look at it this way, it's a more accurate reflection of your true labor margins while checking under the hood. We have to identify these things honestly before we can fix them. Next, we need to look at operational group expense. What should be classified as operational group expenses? That's a great question. Company vehicles, office supplies, shop supplies, which you already know. But what about advertising, outside services, legal and audit, telephone, training management, interest payable on notes, bank charges you pay on your credit cards? All of these would be considered types of operational expenses. Now, a third item is building expenses, or what we call that fixed-in occupancy. Rent, repair, and maintenance on your building. Perhaps a building note that indicates you're buying the property, or a debt payment on that. Speaking of, what about debt payments? Well, for starters, your profit and loss statements, P&Ls, are actually lying to you, especially where debt payments are concerned. Say you have a balance sheet that lists all of your assets and all the liabilities in your business, all the things that you have in your business. In that balance sheet, we may have a $50,000 note, and we're paying $5,000 a month in payments on that particular note. Out of that $5,000, let's just assume $4,000 goes to the principal and $1,000 of that goes to interest. So when you write that check every month, $4,000 never hits the P&L. If it never hits the P&L, your P&L just lied to you by $4,000. The $1,000 for interest hits your P&L under operating expenses called interest notes payable. And if you're a sole proprietor or in a partnership and you're taking a drawer out of your money, your P&L statements could be lying to you as well. For example, say you're paying yourself $1,000 a week in drawer. That $1,000 leaves your business through the balance sheet and never hits your P&L. So your P&L says, hey, you made $10,000 profit this month. But the reality is that your budget will provide a clearer picture of this. P&L statements are constructed for one purpose: paying taxes. GAAP accounting principles dictate the P&L. So to understand your true cost of doing business, you need to develop a budget that plugs in all these numbers to tell you the true cost of doing business at your shop. Not across the country, but your specific shop. This is something we teach in depth, but I will cover the basics of this process in another chapter. Right now, you should have a firm grasp on the essential components in a budget. You won't learn any of these specifics in an accounting class, nor by visiting a CPA. This is a budgeting process that's built specifically for the automotive industry. This allows you to see what's going on in the business in order to make informed business decisions regarding its current state, where the money is being spent, why more isn't landing in your pocket or stacking up. Interesting items as expenses. Let's say you want to make $5,000 profit on your P&L. Perhaps you want to make $10,000, then $15,000, then $20,000. So in your budget, you put that as a line item and expense it, since it is viewed as an expense, because you're going to have to write yourself a check. The need for working capital works the same way, viewed as an expense until you build up enough using the formula that equals 3 times your cost of doing business. If your cost of doing business is $30,000, for example, you need $90,000 in your working capital. If you fall short, your business will suffer, and you're going to miss a lot of opportunity. So if you're short, you add to your expense account or to your cost of doing business. You want to put that working capital money away every month to build. It might be $2,000. It might be $1,000. That is a cost of doing business and adds to the true cost of doing business. Keeping this in mind, think about your reserves. Say you want 3 times your working capital expenses in reserve. Make an intentional plan to hit that goal. Determine a monthly amount that's dedicated to that goal. Again, even if you're contributing $1,000 or $2,000 a month, until you hit that reserve. This puts you in the driver's seat to make the maximum profit and adds to the true cost of doing business. Here's a great rule of thumb. Don't build reserves until you have the 3 times rule in working capital. Let's shift gears to something that's imperative for you to understand: your shop's true value to your marketplace. A shop's true value. When you think about McDonald's, what comes to mind? A fast, cheap meal, not a gourmet experience. When you think about Revlon Cosmetics, what are they selling? They are selling hope. Hope that you'll smell good and/or look better. So what are we selling in the automotive business? What do people, and more specifically, our target markets, think we do? Well, for starters, we need to reframe our thinking about our industry. I strongly believe we need to get paid for what we know, not what we do. We don't go out and just take a starter off and put a starter on, or merely change oil. If that were the case, then we only get paid about 25% of what we should get paid for. If you think about it, why does an attorney charge $300 an hour? Because they are paid for what they know, not what they do. Think about your last doctor's visit. You probably spent less than 15 minutes with your physician after registering, waiting, consulting with a nurse, etc. Your physician is paid for what he or she knows. One way to arrive at your market value is to consider the lifestyle service your business provides. If the car is broken and in your possession, how did the customer's lifestyle change? They can't get to work or the grocery. They can't get anywhere they need to go unless it's within walking distance. So part of your services ensures your customers can keep their lifestyle in place. Another component of true market value is developing the mindset that you're in the financial business, not the auto repair business. This is not a contradiction to the previous paragraph. You are also in the lifestyle service business. The two actually dovetail, because there are three major investments people are willing to spend a lot of money on: housing, family, and transportation. 2/3 of these place us in the financial business, because part of caring for one's family involves transporting them safely, and people are also willing to pay a lot of money for their own means of transportation. So I'll ask again, what are your services worth? You have to determine where the hidden money comes from. The hidden money is where you will make money or lose money in your business. You have to put a value on these services and price accordingly. Labor rates, margins on parts. Let's take a moment to talk about hidden money. Hidden money. I'll pull an example of hidden money from my own business experience. You'll often hear me mention that I started in the automotive repair industry back in Houston, Texas. In fact, that's how I met Sam. Back in 1992, we taught the same budgeting class that we teach today, and we needed a 42% gross profit margin to succeed in the automotive repair business. Just over 20 years later, that margin increased to 63%. And that's only to make the same return on investment, ROI, we were making in 1992. Wow! What happened? Well, for starters, our cost of doing business increased, on average, 1 percentage point every single year from 1992 to 2013. So in 2013, we needed 63%. In 2014, it will be 64%. In 2015, it will be 65%. It won't stop. Not for my business, not for yours. You need a true picture of your cost, your market value, and your margins to find the hidden money. If you spend much time with me, you'll hear me talk about the mailbox theory. If you were to lose your business, how many customers would drive by your house and put money in your mailbox because you didn't charge them enough? How many of your staff would stick around and work for free just because they love you so much? I don't care how beloved you may be in your community, that's not going to happen. Your customers will say, "Thanks for the memories," and your staff will move on to other jobs. This is not a loyalty issue. This is reality. Hidden money will help you avoid succumbing to the mailbox theory. And it's out there in your business. Every transaction, every single day, with incentives to keep your staff engaged. I'll get to these incentives later, but for now, let's talk about the money we leave on the table. Remember Sam? I mentioned that he and I connected over these sorts of issues. After we worked on his budget for, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks, Sam had an aha moment. He saw where he wasn't getting enough margin on the services that he was selling. His profits had shrunk to zero, his reserves had gone away, and his working capital was shrinking. Instinctively, he knew something was wrong with his business, but now he could identify exactly what was happening. If he had been charging the proper amount over the last 12 months, he would have had an additional $175,000 in profit. Sam had been robbing himself, his business, and the success of both. Returning to my mailbox theory, as I mentioned, the mailbox theory has nothing to do with customer or staff loyalty. My point to the mailbox theory is that hidden money will not find you. You must find hidden money. But customer retention does play a key role in finding hidden money, as would staff incentives. Customer retention. So let's spend some time on customer retention, namely, increasing it. Customer retention is the profit center in your business, but there are some differentiation strategies. In the automotive industry, we cannot differentiate ourselves by using better parts. We can't tell our customers we're honest, nor can we differentiate ourselves because we have better technicians or cheaper prices. Many shops try this, and it's a bad strategy. So what can we do? 2 items that are mission critical for you to increase customer retention. 1. Urgency. Urgency is the #1 factor that differentiates you from your competition down the street. Urgency means you say, now, 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 yes, 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 yes. You're always asking your customers, is now a good time? And if now isn't a good time, you follow up with, when would be the best time for you? When they arrive at the counter, you're demonstrably glad they are there. They see their keys handed to the technician and watch your team get the vehicle in motion. As Sam adopted these principles, I had the opportunity to see them applied. I was at his shop when a gentleman had his car towed in. Within 60 seconds, Sam and the assigned technician were greeting the owner, the tow driver, and the car was on the ground. In less than 10 minutes after that, Sam had the guy in the shop's shuttle and on his way. That, my friend, is urgency, and the ticket turned into an $800 ticket. And I believe it was due at least in part to the urgency displayed by everyone on Sam's team to achieve immediate results. Now, it could have gone another way with the customer meandering into the waiting room until someone finally acknowledged him. There's no urgency, though, and by now the customer has wasted so much time that they just want out of there, and the urgency transfers to the customer as a result. Here is a bonus thought. Lack of urgency will destroy the customer's buying mood. 2. Atmosphere. Now picture the above scenario. Everybody operates within the 60-second greet, 10-minute complete window, but they half listen, or openly bicker among themselves. What if reception takes the customer's information and appears bored, or complains to the tech or general manager that they are sending them too fast, I've only got 2 hands? Let me ask you this. Have you ever gone over to somebody's house right after they had a fight or disagreement? Can you walk into that house and feel the atmosphere? Is it thick? Oftentimes they will pretend to be happy, but instinct tells there's something going on. Your shop is making only half attempts on customer retention if you're hitting your marks on urgency, but not on atmosphere. If bickering or bad attitudes exist, your customers feel it too. They also sense fear and desperation. Let me be clear, you can't train happy. A happy reception is fulfilled by placing the right person at the front counter, someone who loves to talk to people, but can also listen. That person is often your business's first impression. Your team needs to understand that the most important person is always the customer right in front of you, not the owners of the cars that are stacking up, not the other staff, not even you, the owner. The most important person is the customer on the phone or the customer standing right in front of you. Urgency and atmosphere will keep your customers and keep them coming back. I knew a woman who had her car towed 60 miles just so Sam's team could work on it. It bears mentioning that it happened over a weekend, too. That's loyalty, and the reward for customer loyalty is money in your pocket. Jumpstart profits and incentives. Let's wrap this chapter with some quick ideas about how to increase gross profits and offer incentives. Simply stated, you increase gross profits by indexing your labor rate and guide. You increase gross profits by not paying the techs on the bump. You increase them by dividing your total labor billed by your labor rate and multiplied by your flat hour rate. That's how you calculate paying your technicians. Now 75% gross profit margin on service packages, that is, flushes, things like that. Increase your labor rate by 50 cents per month. That's called labor rate indexing. Do that the rest of your life, and you'll keep up with the 1% increase in cost of doing business over the next 15 years. Pay your technicians on a progressive flat rate, and everyone works together, just like the serpentine belt, to keep the business moving forward. That, my friends, will increase your profitability. Takeaway: bring a serpentine belt to your next staff meeting and talk about the true cost of doing business. Explain the analogy of how everyone is key to your shop's true market value. Determine what your current true value is in the marketplace and what everyone can do to increase that value by asking, what do you do well? What needs to change? What needs improvement? Is a 60-second greet, 10-minute complete turnover feasible with each customer? What happens when a customer takes longer? Are there any roles that need to be shifted to accomplish this? That is, does someone need a break from reception, or does someone need to be promoted to a general manager role? When conflict arises, what will be the company policy to get it resolved without burdening customers? Discuss priorities and set goals to increase your shop's value in the marketplace. When your team feels they have contributed to these decisions, and they are on the front lines so they have valid opinions, they will take ownership of the goals, policies, and processes that are implemented. Gary's Golden Nuggets. It will ultimately be more expensive to not stop long enough to check under your shop's hood and to not know the true cost of doing business. 7 items will determine how much drains from the top: personnel expenses, operational expenses, building expenses, note payments, budgeted net profit, working capital, and reserve funds required. It's equally important to understand why a budget shouldn't be viewed as constrictive. Rather, it's the great barometer by which to make business decisions. Reframe your thinking about our industry to get paid for what you know, not what you do. Remember, you are in the lifestyle service industry, but you are also in the financial business. You need a true picture of your cost, your market value, and your margins to find the hidden money. It will not find you. Customer retention is the profit center in your business.